Welcome to the Women in Digital Dentistry podcast, where we empower through innovation. I'm Allison Lacoussiere, your host, and each week we'll explore the mindset and the skill set of creating a successful practice and life for women in business. From the latest in dental technology to mastering marketing strategies, creating team synergy, cultivating a powerful money mindset, this podcast is your resource to empower yourself and your team to have the most success possible. Whether you're an established business professional or just beginning your journey, we're here to help you unlock your full potential, lead with confidence, and have an incredible journey along the way. Welcome to the Women in Digital Dentistry podcast. Welcome to another episode of Women in Digital Dentistry. I am here with somebody that I have met recently in the industry who has captured my heart and is an expert in what she does in our industry and is actually an ambassador for Women in Digital Dentistry. Brandi Marzolino, welcome to our show.
Thank you, Allison. Super excited to be here with you.
I'm super excited to have you here because you're the kind of person where we hop on a call and immediately it's like, let's go deep and let's talk about everything. And we just connected the very first time we met. And I knew that I wanted your expertise, I wanted your experience, and I wanted your passion in our community. And so I'm so grateful to you and I'm so excited for this conversation today.
Me too. And I'm a huge fan of yours since the first time I saw you online years ago. So I'm super grateful that the universe brought us together and now we get the chance to do this.
100%. So let me formally introduce you to this community. Brandi is a dental coach who doesn't always talk about dental. She's part coach, part spiritual guide, part strategist, and all hearts. She is the voice that shows up when you're ready to lead from your soul, not your spreadsheet. Equal parts grounded grit and spiritual glow, Brandi helps dental leaders and their teams cut through the noise, drop the perfection act, and build leadership legacies rooted in authenticity, alignment, and joy. She's not here for the fluff. She's here for the real, the revolution, the deep remembering of who you are beneath the white coat. When you work with Brandi, it's like your higher self just pulling up a chair, poured you a cup of coffee and said, let's do this. Oh my gosh, I love that so much. Brandi, tell us a little bit about how you became so, if you're doing this work for others, we know that you've done this work for yourself. Like you have gone deep, you are aligned, you are authentic, and you are joyful. Tell us how you came to be this way.
Yeah, thanks, Allison. So, I've been in the coaching space for about 20 years, dental specifically for about 15 years. And I noticed early on in my dental coaching days that I was actually coaching and asking people to engage in the same practices that I was trying to heal from myself, which was this dual life. And so I had really mastered the art of performance and external appearance and reputation, but inside I was really struggling and I was having a lot of pain. And when I started coaching early on, a lot of my clients were coming, hey, they knew there was something they needed in their lives, their businesses. They didn't know quite what it was. But as we developed our relationship and we developed trust, they started sharing more intimately on what was going on in their lives. And often I'd have to say, I get it. I understand that, you might be on the brink of divorce with your husband, but can we talk about maybe why your hygienist didn't produce as much as they could have last month? I had to keep pivoting because I was focusing more on the result of what they were hired, what they originally hired me to do. And then it dawned on me that I'm now asking these people to split themselves, forget the situations that they're dealing with at home or personally, or the aches that they have internally or in their heart. And let's focus on perfecting the business because that's what's most important. And I had to take a really hard look at myself. I had to take a hard look at, what I was perpetuating in the world of coaching. And I also had to look at my own demons because I too was continuously living that double life. I thought I had it figured out because I was doing a lot of inner work. I was doing a lot of personal development, but I was also climbing the ladders. I was striving. And as you know, I am in recovery for alcohol. And so I was also going hard in all areas of my life. I was working really hard. I was drinking really hard. I was working out really hard. Everything was full court press. There was this high level of intensity in everything that I was doing. And I hadn't quite addressed some of the bigger and deeper issues that I had been struggling with. And so I pivoted in my coaching career, and I decided that I wanted to have these real conversations with my clients, because my coaching actually started in holistic health, which was the mind body spirit connection and all parts being connected and full integration. And I knew that was the truth, my truth. It's how I like to coach, and how I like to live. But man, it's tough. You get out there in the world, and then the world asks you to parse yourself out, and only show certain aspects of yourself because maybe it's not acceptable, or people don't want to see that, or it's uncomfortable. And so I became what I didn't want to be. And I really, really, really had to dig my heels in and get really honest with myself, take full responsibility for how I was living my life. I got sober. And then I also wanted to help other clients in overcoming the things that they're hiding and that they feel ashamed of, and find ways to integrate it into their life so they too can gain a sense of freedom, because results aren't sustainable if we're parsing ourselves out and only focusing on one piece. Because if we're not in full alignment, if we're not integrating all aspects of ourselves, at some point one of those other aspects is going to get louder and demand that you bring it to the table. So that's behind why I do what I do and the coaching that I do, because I had to be in integrity with myself, and I really had to coach from what I believe to be true. And then like you said, I'm a student of my own work, and I continue to be every day. So.
Gosh, so beautiful. It's so beautifully said. Like your story is just, it's, I think anybody can connect to it. And especially like women in business, the business world wasn't built for women, which is why we get conditioned to like, no, 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 don't be emotional. Don't bring your feelings in here. Let's talk about the data. Let's talk about the numbers. Let's talk about the systems and structure and strategy, which we know is like a highly masculine structure. But
Mhm.
bring their own nuance. They bring their own skills. And when women can bring their whole self to business, that's when it really starts to work. And so, similarly, coaching women, you face things like miscarriages, like menopause, like divorce, like children having challenges and difficulties, the home life that is in turmoil. How do you ignore that to grow?
Mhm.
You can't. You really can't. It's not possible. Or if you do, it comes at a great, great consequence. And
That was
so I love furthering this conversation that, again, like one of my mantras in my company is that we're human beings first and we're professionals second. And the better human being we are, the better professional we are. But we can't pretend like we're a professional and not a human. It just doesn't work that way. So I would love to hear from you, like within kind of this knowing and within the work that you do, what are some of the common issues that you see in dentistry, particularly with women in dental?
Yeah, I think, one of the biggest things is, and you touched on it also, it's this idea that there's one way to do business, and that there's this inherited mindset that's been passed down. Typically, up until recently, men dominated the dental industry, and so that's shifting now. So yay. We're gonna have more diversity. But I think too, it's this model that was developed, and it's like, well, there's this way to do it, and so I got to do it this way. And I was, talking to a couple fellas last night, and also talking about the conversations that a lot of dentists will have with their colleagues, like who they went to dental school with. I see this common trend where there's this camaraderie, and it's like, oh man, you got to try this in my business. I did this, and this really worked for me. Or, oh, you got to sign up for this, or you got to bring this into your office. You got to do this, you got to do that. And we're in this information overload era. And what ultimately happens is we don't know what we truly want. And everyone's trying to live out somebody else's business model. And in general, they could all generally look the same. They could have some similarities, but like you pointed to, the nuance and what makes it yours and what makes it unique and what are your specific values and how do you live them day to day, and like what truly are your beliefs. And not only values and beliefs, but how do you express them? What does that look like for you? And how do you define success? Is success working 2 days a week and having an amazing, family time, and having other associates or whatever that looks like to you? And does it mean success for you? Does it mean bringing in a certain level of income and that's enough? And yeah, maybe your colleagues are making double, triple, quadruple that, and that's okay because, that's what they want. But hey, I want this, and this is enough money for me, right?
Mhm.
And being okay with that. And I think that's one of the biggest things is people come in because they're just so overwhelmed and they're struggling and they have, it's how they feel inside doesn't match with what they're creating on the outside. And
Mhm.
that's where I usually like to start is by really listening and hearing what they're saying and then also hearing what their heart's saying underneath what their mind is saying and trying to bridge the gap between the two. I
Mhm.
think it's a super common thing. It happens with men too, but women especially. Yeah.
100%. And I love that you say like bridge the gap because I think there's this idea, and I've seen this too, where I've like coached women who like they want a family and they want to have kids, but then they feel like to their male colleagues they're going to be seen differently, or they're going to like not be as career oriented, or they're going to like be seen as weak or something like that. Like it's this mindset that where it's like what I want is not accepted, or what
Mm.
I want is going to show like weakness, or that I'm not a high performer. But the real reality is like the more you can connect to who you are, the more you can bridge the gap between like what success really means and how close, like how you're going to achieve it. Because there's this like idea that we have to be a certain way, and that's not true at all. And you're right, like there's a lot of comparison, there's a lot of like kind of measuring that is ultimately unhelpful. And
Yeah.
so what would you say would be kind of the first steps in like finding that personal freedom or that connection to life and business?
Yeah, I think, well, one of the things that I would recommend typically is, and this might be obvious, but the first step is asking for help, raising your hand and saying, "Hey, I don't think I have all the answers." And the reason why that might sound obvious to you and I, but to a lot of people is that it might not seem so obvious is, especially in the field of dental, there's a lot of perfectionists, there's a lot of striver mentality, there's a lot of roll your sleeves up, got to do it myself. And then the focus can be on how do I make the business better? Because once the business is better, then I'll feel better. Versus, hey, I don't feel so great. Don't totally know why. Could be the business, could be me, could be something in my personal life. But can you help me out? And having the humility to ask for some help, I think is so key because it could be something mental that you're struggling with that is getting in the way of you seeing yourself as really successful. I had a client who came to me and absolutely hated his business. He had been practicing for over 20 years and he was really struggling with his business and he wanted to just throw it all away. And he was like, I think I wasted my life. And then we had this really intense, several coaching sessions, and he finally got to see that he actually built the life that he had always dreamed of, but he was still subconsciously trying to fulfill his father's expectations of him that didn't look like his father wanted. So he had deemed himself a failure because he never met what his dad wanted. But in the meantime, he had created this dream life. And he was like, oh my God, I did it. I have everything I've ever wanted. And then his entire mindset shifted about his business, right? So your business might not always be the problem. It could be something that's going on for you internally. So that I think that's the first part. Help somebody, allow somebody to help you move through it because I know you probably have mentors. I have a ton of mentors and coaches. And what's important is they provide a feedback loop.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a proper feedback loop and a healthy feedback loop, of people being able to show you, hey, this is what you keep saying over and over and over again, but you're doing this. They don't
Mm-mm.
match, right? Or giving insight on how you're approaching certain things. So that's first. And then it's also taking responsibility for your life and your actions and your business. I think that's really critical because I think sometimes people can, when they get very overwhelmed, put the blame out there and again, put the blame on the business, or an office manager, or a team, or the economy. I mean, we're probably going to hear about the economy again for the next 5 years. That's always the economy. There's always something, right? And whatever's going on, there's always like that thing out there that's affecting me, right? So again, they seem like basic stuff, but they're actually really hard to do. And so that's typically where I start, is like bare level, where are we starting from? And then looking at unpacking the beliefs. What is your version of success? What does your dream scenario look like to you? And how far are you from that? Because a lot of times people might already be closer than they think. But if they're dealing with comparisonitis, as I call it, they're never going to win the game that they think they're playing. You know?
100%. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh. So true. And I call this like reality testing, like having
yeah.
your kind of like internal board of advisors. And like for me, we go through different things in our life that challenge us. That's so natural. Like life will life on us. But if we're trying to navigate it all alone, and we're kind of like locking ourselves into our own mind, we can tell ourselves a lot of really stupid things. Like I'll just gonna call it right out. It's like they're not true. They're not real. They're someone else's belief system. And we can sometimes like operate our lives that way from like a belief someone gave us decades ago or years ago of like, we're not enough. We have to prove our worth. You're not good enough. Like it's all these like thoughts that can trap us. But when we like open ourselves up, which you're right, it's not easy to do that. But when we open ourselves up and reality test it, I can say, hey, Brandy, like I'm thinking this. Like how true is this? And you can reflect back to me and help me see the actual like truth of the matter, which is so powerful and so valuable. I
Yeah.
think it's so brilliant.
Yeah, and I learned early on, and this is something that you also learn too with doing a lot of inner work and recovery work, is as I've been told, I have an unreliable inner narrator. So she's unreliable, and because she's not always accurate on what the internal dialogue is telling me, it's it's not reliable, it's not true. Oftentimes it's not true. So if for me to believe some of that inner dialogue as fact, can get me into trouble sometimes, or just not allow me to do what I need to do or what I want to do. And having those people in my life that can remind me of who I am
Yeah.
and say, this is who you are for me, and this is what you're committed to doing. And then you're like, okay, yep, that's right. You know, those voices have a place, right? Um, they don't always need front row, at the concert, but they have a place. The concert of voices.
I love calling them like the automatic negative thoughts, like the
Oh
ants.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Don't let the ants like come in and invade your home. Like maybe an automatic negative thought is there to protect you and keep you
yeah. Mhm.
safe. Remember the last time you did this. And it's like, actually, thank you, but like this is different. I'm evolved. I'm safe. And so you don't always have to listen to the automatic negative thoughts. In fact, like most of the time you don't. And
Right.
so sounding board is so important. And something that I've always shared with, and like I lecture on this and talk to my clients about it, is that pain gap. So especially women have a very high pain tolerance. And we can think that like regular frequent anxiety, feeling enormous amounts of guilt, feeling a lack of self-worth, like feeling like I'm not good enough is like, again, I'm not gonna use the word like normal or not normal, but it's just
Yeah.
like that's just what life has to be. And it doesn't have to be like that. And I always call it like your pain gap, like the amount of like anxiety, fear, guilt, shame, all of that, it like opens up how much pain that you have in your life. And the more we align with like our authentic self, the more we lean into support, the more we like monitor our thoughts, it closes that pain gap. So we actually don't have to be anxious. We don't have to be afraid. We don't have to feel bad about ourselves. And when we do that, we actually perform way better in our lives and businesses. And it's
Yeah.
like, we're going to focus on a metric. Why don't we focus on like closing your pain gap, aligning you, and then let's talk about your KPIs because they'll be way better just because of that.
Yeah. And you're reminding me of something too that um, I've seen a lot, especially in women in high performing roles. I think also there's a passed down belief in our society, is that in order for women to be successful, that it has to hurt.
Yeah.
Like it's not it like there needs to be some kind of suffering associated with it, because we inherently don't believe that we're entitled to this level of success. and especially in American culture, and I'm assuming Canadian as well, that like, this idea that we're out here in the world and we're experiencing success, so I'm just gonna take the scraps and thank you so much. I'm so grateful that I'm getting this money. Oh my goodness, or I'm getting whatever I'm getting. Like we should be grateful for this. Like somewhere we should just be so grateful. I was talking to someone the other night where it's the same thing. A lot of women don't negotiate in pay. It's like, oh my gosh, you're going to pay me this? Thank you. Yes, I'll take it. Where there's a lot of men I know in professional settings, with the first offer they get, they negotiate it. They're like, it's just an offer. It's not like the final deal. And they literally just negotiate every single offer they get. Where women, it's like, yeah, yeah, I can do that. I can do that. Wow, thank you. It's
Yeah.
because there's this idea that, we should just take what we can get. And then if we have any level of success, it's like, well, it shouldn't come easy. It should be
Yeah.
hard,
Yeah.
right? And I should suffer because if I'm enjoying what I'm doing and I'm earning a really good income and my life seems like it's pretty decent, like when's the other shoe going to drop? And where's the pain? The pain should be in here somewhere,
Mhm.
right? And I think that also is based on cultural stuff passed down as well because we're not used to being in a lot of these positions, right?
100%. I mean, like
Yeah.
generational trauma. There is a study that I became obsessed with called the cherry blossom study, where they shocked mice's feet. They just like put little like shockers on the feet and shocked the mice's feet. And the mice that had babies who they shocked their feet, they'd make them smell cherry blossoms, then they'd shock their feet. Then they had the babies. The babies had never been shocked in their life. They smelled the cherry blossoms. They started to freak out because they thought they were going to be shocked. And so
Mhm.
when we look at like
Yeah,
epigenetics
right.
of history of trauma for women, when we are suffering, sometimes we think, oh, it's because we're not safe. Like something's going to drop because like for generations, women weren't safe in many capacities, in many ways. And so of course now we're living in this bold time where we're like putting
Yeah.
ourselves on social media and we're like claiming the world. And it's like, wait a second, like, is it okay to do that? Like from everything I know to be true in my bones, like it might not be. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
we understand that, then we can be like, oh, okay, that's just, my instincts kicking up and my safety kicking up of, is it safe for me to be this seen? Is it safe for me to be this happy? Is it safe for me to be this powerful? And the answer today is yes, it is. But we have to
Mhm.
condition ourselves for a new reality.
Yes. Yeah, and I love with you building out community too. It's like not doing it alone and having community to support you through it because I think women are also, I mean, as humans we're communal creatures, but women particularly, and we need other women to support us and carry us and remind us of who we are and integrate all parts of ourselves. And I think women on their own, right, are more susceptible to that pain and those challenges and those fears, but man, you get a group of women together, we're pretty unstoppable. So
It is 100% true, which is why I'm so grateful to have you as a part of our community. And I can totally I see how much you serve and support people in our world. And I love that you bring these conversations forward because I know, like, in our world of dentistry 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago, we didn't talk about authenticity and alignment, but it's important. It is so important, especially right now and especially today. So I'm so grateful that you did the work to come forward to understand how to serve and help so many people. And I know it took courage and it took authenticity and it took that, but I know how many people you help in the world. And so I would love to hear how people can connect with you, and where can they find more about you.
yes, well, I'm on LinkedIn quite a bit, so find me on LinkedIn, Brandi Marzolino. I'm on there, and you can also find me on my website, which is courageandjoyatwork.com. There's a lot of resources on there. Yeah.
So good. We're so lucky to have you as part of our Women in Digital Dentistry community. For everyone listening, if this was helpful to you, if it resonated, if you know one of your sisters, friends, cousins, aunties, daughters that would like this episode, please share it with them. This is how we support other women. This is how we rise together. So, Brandi, thank you for being a part of Women in Digital Dentistry. I'm so grateful for you. And we will see everyone else on the next episode.
Thank you, Allison.
You. Bye.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Women in Digital Dentistry. We hope you found today's discussion inspiring and full of actionable insights to help you thrive in your practice and beyond. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe so you never miss an update. And if you know someone who would benefit from these conversations, please share this podcast with them. We would love to hear your thoughts and feedback, so feel free to leave us a review or connect with us on social media. Together, we are building a powerful community of women leading the way in digital dentistry. Until next time, keep innovating, keep growing, and keep making a difference in the world of dentistry. Thanks for listening.